Welcome to the Sixth Wheels Consulting Podcast, dialoguing disability and discussing difference, inclusion, and all abilities in today's world. Now here are your hosts, Matthew Shapiro and Bob Nolly.
Hey, you found your way back, and we're so glad. For Matthew Shapiro, this is Dr. Bob Nolly. Welcome to the Sixth Wheels Consulting Disability Podcast. In our last episode, previously on Six Wheels, we talked to Ashton Fallon, who talked about meeting Matthew and their work at the Sorensen Institute. We're going to get back to that conversation right now. When she talks about the experience, the challenges she's had of parenting her son who has ADHD and all the challenges that it has presented her and the mindset that she took on to work through this. So without delay, let's get right back to it.
So to get away from the doom and gloom, but I completely agree with it. I'm getting away from kind of the IEP world, and I trust me, I completely understand how frustrating and time consuming that can be. I want to get to some brighter questions. And so tell me, like, what is one thing that Hayden has taught you in your time in sort of raising him and helping him develop?
He has taught me so many things. Number one is probably patience. I think my
mom would say the same thing about me.
Yeah. Because you do have to keep in mind, like, he does have some struggles, and, he has so many great sides to him. And I feel like people can often look at him having a tantrum or see him struggling and be like, oh, that's like, let's just write him off or whatever. But, when you take the time to really get to know my son, he is super compassionate. He very much cares for people. And it's just so awesome just seeing him grow up. And I was literally sitting with him the other day talking to him, and I said, Hayden, I know that you have ADHD, but that just means that you see the world differently. You have this full superpower that you can use for your strength. It's all up to you. There are a lot of people.
I love that. That's a mom talking right there. That's just perfect.
That's definitely a momism.
Dads can't deliver that line. That's a mom line.
Yeah, that's definitely a mom line.
Well, yeah, you don't want him to feel crippled. You whereas he's still like, oh, I have, or like this crutch, like I have ADHD, like I'm not as great as someone else, or, a child with a developmental disability, they still see the world differently and they have so much to bring. And so I don't want him to look at himself as quote unquote, less than, or, and so I just try to tell him that,
it's really funny that you bring that up, right? Because so often I feel on our episodes, I'm often going back to this whole idea of I use my wheelchair and I use my disability and I use my situation as a badge of courage, right? It has made me who I am. It has taught me so much patience, so much of an ability to think creatively, think differently than, just the average Joe on the street. And so to hear you kind of use that momism, so to speak, really brings me back to that whole thought process for me, because I can relate to that completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I feel like, there are different disabilities out there. So of course, not everyone has ADHD. There are some kids who have developmental delays or physical impairments, but regardless of what your disability is, I feel like there's always something good that can come out of a situation, and it's hard sometimes to see that, especially when your child is struggling. I know to be completely transparent, there were many times where I would sit in my car and I would cry, or I would talk to my mom and be like, I just don't get that. This is why this is happening. This is so discouraging as a parent. But, I feel like there is some good that can come out of this. And I truly believe that my son will someday turn around and use his experience to encourage someone else.
And I can tell you, the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts that you were just addressing there, that is not uncommon at all for any special needs parent, any parent who is dealing with somebody with a disability, we all have, they all have those moments of, what the heck. And I'll be transparent on my end. Like I have, I just on one hand just said, yeah, it's a really important part of me and it showed me a lot, but I still do get frustrated, right? Because there are days when, obviously I can't change it, but there are certainly instances whether I'm, when I'm laying in bed at night or I'm doing whatever, and sometimes you do get frustrated, but the most important thing is to have that thought process, think about it for a few minutes, and then figure out a way to reframe that thought process and turn it into something positive. One of the things I always try to do and try to be is one of the most positive people that I can be on a day in and day out basis. Now that's not to say I don't have bad days, just like Ashton, I'm sure you don't have, you have bad days as well, but I do try to, because I sort of consider myself somebody that can educate others about disability. So I always try to be a positive interaction when I'm interacting with somebody who might be, Hayden's age or younger, or, I try to give them a positive experience when they meet me anywhere. And so, it's, yeah, do you have bad days? Absolutely. But, you try to find the good in all of the little instances, and you kind of go from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, Matthew, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always things to learn. And if there's something positive that I can say, from my experience, moving forward months and months later, my son is excelling in school. If that's, if I can be a source of encouragement of parents who are going through this right now, he's in a school where he has a 1-to-1 aide. He has this amazing IEP. And so if there's any other source of encouragement that I can provide to your listeners, is that there is hope, and don't give up, because there are going to be rough days. I still have rough days. You can ask my boyfriend, who is like my awesome supporter. And there are many times where I call him crying, but overall, my son is just doing so much better than he was a year ago. And I'm so proud of him. I literally got a phone call from the principal, like, I think it was 2 days ago. And she said, and I was like, uh-oh, I'm getting a call from the school. I'm probably going to have to come get him. What's that?
Yeah. No, I said, oh.
You just want to block that call and go, oh no, decline.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what did she say?
So I got a call and I was like, okay, I'm sure I'm going to have to come get him. And she was like, actually, I'm calling, nothing's wrong. And she was like, I just wanted to let you know that Hayden actually was trying to break up a fight today. There were kids on the playground who were fighting, and he was trying to get them to stop.
Oh, that's so cute.
And in the process, he got punched in the neck. And I was like, oh my gosh. And, for a child with ADHD, that can set them off very easily. And then he also has, I don't know if I mentioned this, but he also has a secondary condition called ODD, or oppositional, which causes a lot of basically emotional dysregulation. So for him to have that happen to him and to just walk away and try to encourage the kids to stop hitting each other, it's like, man, like that's a victory for us.
Yeah, huge. I would have said, could you hold the line, please? And walked outside and looked up at the sky and go, thank you, God. Oh my goodness.
Right. But also think about this, right? Think about the growth. Like even from when we first started chatting a few minutes ago to that story you just shared with us, that growth is incredible. And for Hayden to be able to kind of get there. Now again, we're not all a finished product, and like I said, we all have good and bad days, but that's a really cool story. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm grinning from ear to ear. It's just great.
Oh, thank you guys.
And I hope every parent that listens to this show is hitting the back up 15, 30 seconds button and listen to that again.
Well, and in addition to that, like, I have a couple more questions and then we'll get out of here. But if you could give one piece of advice to parents who might be listening, what would it be?
I would say to find your village. That is, and also to prioritize your mental health, because if you're not mentally okay, then your child's not going to be okay. And I can attest to being, a parent of a severely ADHD child. There are days where, it can be very difficult. And so you have to do what you have to do. I mean, don't feel bad about it. There are days where I'll just sit home and watch a movie, or I'll do like a date night with my boyfriend, or just, something for me, because a lot of my time revolves either around my job or my son's therapy appointments or an IEP meeting or, so, find those people who can really encourage you, because, I love being transparent, but I've been part of like those online forums for special needs parents. And
Sure.
for a while, I had to stop looking at those because they were so depressing and discouraging.
Yeah, you do.
And I get that.
Yeah.
Like those have their place. So I'm not trying to take away from those forums.
Sure.
But when you're like constantly reading people who are just like depressed and discouraged, and you're trying to get out of that, like you got to find people around you who are going to speak life into you. And so for me, my church has been so supportive. When my son has had tantrums at church, like there have been people that are right alongside me, just calling me afterwards to check on me and say, we love him. Like, we'll like work on this next time. We'll figure out how we can better help Hayden while he's here at church. Or, I have 2 friends from my church who are retired, and when he's having difficult days, they will go to the school and pick him up so that I can keep working as a single parent.
That's amazing.
So grateful for them.
Absolutely. That is so cool.
That's just great. So you want to give a shout out to your church home and say hey to those guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm a member of Kingdom Life Ministries in Roanoke, Virginia. And, our church is all about like love and compassion. And I think Hayden has a lot of people in the church have dealt with him firsthand, and they've learned how to be more compassionate, because I'm sure he can be frustrating, because this was really like a week ago, he was just having a rough day. And I think sometimes you can kind of sense that, kids with ADHD, they really rely on schedule, rituals. That's kind of what they live by. And so for the most part, my son does have a ritual that we follow every day. Like we do the same things. But on this particular weekend, I had to work. And then, so it was kind of a different weekend for him. And so by the time Sunday rolled around, he was a bit moody. And, after church on Sundays, he usually has youth group with his peers. And this particular Sunday, he was not having it. He was, having a tantrum and just like not listening. And so I came to the church early to pick him up. And, I felt really bad that he had such a, that was one of the more epic meltdowns that he's had in a while. And so I talked to this church person like afterwards. And, I was like literally on the phone crying because I felt so bad. And he was just like, no, like, I love him. We're going to keep working on this. Like, be encouraged. It's okay. And you need people like that in your life. Sure. Because being a parent is hard enough. Then you add on that being a single parent, then a special needs parent. So, you need people in your life to really encourage you. And, that's why I was so passionate about reaching out to Matthew, because, for so long I have not really talked about my son's story. I haven't really been that open about it, but I feel like a lot of people suffer in silence, and there's so much shame, especially with a child. I've met parents whose children have bipolar disorder or, other, or like disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Like there's other, ones out there. And I feel like there's so much shame. Like, what did I do? Or as a parent, I'm a failure. And, I've definitely struggled with that myself, but I just want to encourage people that it's okay, just like keep it moving and find your tribe of people who are going to speak life into you.
There you go.
Because you need that.
And I just want to add one thing. And first of all, I just want to say how like honored and appreciative that how I feel that you are willing to come on my show and be as open as you have been, and like that you trusted me enough to have this be one of your first forums that you really share about Hayden. So thank you for that, because that just makes me feel makes me like feel like that you trusted me and you think the work that we're doing on the pod and all of that is worthwhile. So that just means a heck of a lot coming from me. So thank you very much for that.
So Ashton, I got another bit of news for you here. now that you've been a guest on the show, now you're automatically promoted into co-host status. So you can come back anytime and sit on the little 3-legged stool or on the couch in your sweats, whatever fits, and talk to us again. And we'd love to have you anytime.
Absolutely.
I would love that. That would be great.
That's just great. And if folks want to reach out to you, parents that have heard your message, anyone that's heard your message here when they're listening tonight wants to find you on social anywhere, where should they look for you?
They can find me on Instagram. I'm trying to figure out what my Instagram
on the gram.
I actually don't know what my Instagram name is. I guess Google. Oh, yes, I do. It's Ashton. So Ashton, Fallon, F as in Frank, Allen. You can Fallon.
Okay,
you can follow me on Instagram.
You just got another 100 followers, I hope. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, yay! That'd be great.
And you're also on LinkedIn. You're Ashton Fallon in Roanoke, Virginia. So
yeah, so they can message me on LinkedIn either way, or they can send me an email if they want. My email is ashtonfallon@gmail.com. All one word.
That's great. Ashton, thank you so much for being here tonight. Matthew, you got a last word?
I'm just super appreciative for Ashton for you being on, and we just are loving what we're doing with this podcast, and hopefully our listeners enjoyed the episode, and I'm looking forward to more. So I'll give it back to you, Bob.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Six Wheels Consulting Disability Podcast. For our guest, Ashton Fallon, your host, Matthew Shapiro, this is Bob Nolly.